Here.
And let's start over. I'm going to call meeting to order, and I'm going to roll call. Tamika Vukovic, you're here. I'm here. Andrew Franklin. Item number 1C is a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a
So
motion?
moved.
All right, and I'll second that on a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, so on to number 2, new business discussion.
So we wanted to provide an opportunity on the transition that we're going to have because our lovely buildings and grounds director is counting down the days to his hopefully less stressful life. So we wanted to use this committee meeting as a time to provide that update. I know that you had the board has had some questions in the past, so it's kind of an open-ended. We had talked a few times about potentially partnering with our other districts. That didn't turn out to be the best decision to make based on our unique needs and honestly the strength of our team. Some of the other districts had a lot more needs to fill, and so it made a lot more sense for them to continue on with that, and then for us to really move on in a different way. And as we've all learned over the last 2 years, we try it, we're flexible, we adjust as needed, but we're feeling pretty good about our plan moving forward. And especially because Jim's really been really helpful in filling us in, helping us create documents of what the month to month looks like for the department. Lindsay's done rounding with Jim and with the rest of the custodial staff to really get a lot of information on what needs the department has moving forward. And honestly, we've got some rock star leaders in that department that kind of handle the day-to-day in a really great way and go above and beyond. And so we're feeling pretty solid about the plan, but we wanted to open it up and give Jim a chance to talk about it, give Lindsay a chance to talk about it, have you guys ask any questions that you might have as we transition forward.
Lindsay, I'll let you go first.
Oh, thanks. So I don't know if it's actually been clearly put that the plan right now is transition Jim's responsibilities to me, and then the day-to-day is really staying the same with the current staff that we have. Jim didn't created a document of like all of his different responsibilities and everything that he does, and we've been meeting on a regular basis to kind of go through that, just getting the contacts. And then in a couple weeks we're going to send out a letter to all of our vendors, all of Jim's contacts, and then everybody, just like, this is the updated plan, the updated process. But I know Jim is always going to be a resource if we need it, and it'll be good. Like Allison said, the team here is just phenomenal. So it definitely seems manageable.
And so many things that, fall into Jim's duties and buildings and grounds, our financial, our ordering, our RFPs, that they all fit into that financial piece. And there are a lot of districts that do that, have that director of operations, which handles budget and buildings and grounds. And so that's kind of the plan moving forward. Like she said, we do, I don't want to name them by name because I don't want to put anybody out, but we have a couple really strong leaders in the department too that are willing to really supervise and lead that day-to-day piece so that we can have a pretty seamless transition.
And I did talk to 4 other districts that don't have a buildings and ground person, just to ask them, how's that been working for you? What are the challenges? Like, so I definitely got some great feedback and some helpful information. So.
Yeah, we've been working, I've been working with my team, and we've been meeting weekly and more than that too, and with Lindsay and Allison, and going over kind of day-to-day stuff, but then also going over long range stuff. The 10-year plan, we've gone over that. My current position kind of morphed out of a lot of different situations in the district. If you go back 20 years that I've been here. So a lot of things kind of went through my office when there was no one else here. And And so some of my responsibilities really, as Lindsay said, were business office responsibilities, but they fell into the building and grounds because we had, a lot of transition before Andy and Tamika were even on the board in our business office. And Andy, you might remember some of those when you first started. So some of those we're kind of picking up the pieces. But as Lindsay and Allison said, we have a really strong first shift and second shift team here that I'm very, very proud of my staff. As I've said to everyone that I've talked to, we don't have turnover. We have long-term associates. We have people that make my job really easy. And I know that they'll do the same going forward. And I think, as both Allison and Lindsay have said before, if not today, is that, everything is fluid. Things may change, as we move down the road 3-4 months, and you see as things happen. It's nothing is carved in stone except those tablets, those 10
The
commandments.
15.
15, but we lost one, Andy. There was
You know
15,
what?
but
Quoting History of the World Part 1. I mean,
we had 15, but oh wait, we only have 10.
yeah, 15 yet then.
But anyway, so I think that keeping an open mind that things will, could be moving, or it may find that this is really a good solution too. And as Lindsay and Allison both said, I still live here, and I'm 5 minutes from school and a phone call away from anybody. And I know that as we've had people retire in the past, Don Bruning name comes up once in a while. As you know, that Mike still calls Don maybe once a month, if not more than that. Sometimes it's just questions about, hey, I'm trying to do this. What happened? So that's the good news. And I think that, there's a plan going forward. I'm going to miss this place, but that's how it is. And it's it's a good time to do this. And I think that, the district is positioned to go forward in that direction. And as I said before, I am not worried about the people that we have in place right now doing the job. And I know that they also are vocal enough that if something isn't working, and I know the ladies, Allison and Lindsay, would listen. If something isn't working, like, well, wait a minute, that just doesn't fit, or that doesn't work right, that they will speak up. And I know that they will, because that's who they are and that's how they work. And I'm very confident in that. So I'd be happy to take any questions. Like I said, we've been meeting weekly with my team. I've been meeting with Lindsay and Allison weekly. A lot of communication back and forth. I've spent a lot of time in both buildings, just kind of walking around and seeing stuff. We're working on projects for summer. I don't have that list yet, but before I leave the end of the month, we'll have kind of a tentative list on summer projects like we always do in January, February. And you'll get that probably in the February meetings as that moves forward. So I'm happy to take any questions, or Lindsay or Allison, if you have anything else, or Andy or Tamika.
Jim, I'm just thinking, I know we don't have a huge audience or anything right now, but just to remind people when your official last date is, maybe so that people know.
My official last day is Friday, the 28th of January.
Wow.
My contract actually goes through the 31st, but I'm not coming in for one day on Monday. Sorry. I'm going to take that day off.
You're being difficult.
I'll take that day off.
So I just want to, I'm just going to throw this out here, Jim. I've been working with you for a long time. You've been with the district for a while. You were on the board. You have a broad sense of perspective, and I've always appreciated that. And it's hard to say, that you can leave and have your job done by other people. It's going to take so many other people chipping in to be able to make it work. I think it's really important for us to have that discussion, just so that we know what's in store for us, and whether or not this is temporary or permanent. I know that, we'll have some flexibility in terms of how, we address this going forward. But I appreciate all the work that you've done, and the fact that you left things in really good care, and that you've been very diligent. And that doesn't just, refer to right now, but there are a lot of things that you did with particularly prepping us to reopen the school building. And I think that those things are really important, that you did, that you took the lead on. I also, frankly, we need to stress, I think, have some recognition that you did a lot of things with a very environmental eye, right? There are things that I always appreciated that you did, getting a LEED certification when we did remodeling. I'm a fan of geothermal heating for the pool. And so I know that you've done a lot of things, and so what you've done is you've taken steps to cut the costs and to also be just on the right side of things environmentally. And so I appreciate that greatly. I do have faith, as do you in the administration, that we'll be able to handle this. I I I feel like we had to kind of come and have a discussion just to kind of make sure we were publicly facing the changes that were about to happen in a couple of weeks. But that being said, I mean, I don't know if there's any other action that needs to be taken at this point. It looks like everything's in line and the pieces are in play. And then just gonna be up to us to see what tweaks need to be made after your departure. But I just appreciate everything that you've done up till now and what you're doing right now and just in this transition. So the last couple of weeks, that we have you, I just want to say thanks, and I'm glad you've been on our team all this time.
Thanks, Andy.
Well, I have two things to say. I'm going to split them up. One is about Jim and then another about this process. So I'm going to do the nice stuff first. Jim, I absolutely adore and love you. We have the first committee meeting I ever was on was with you. I think I have had discussions, not just with buildings and grounds, but other different discussions about board and board procedure that I do respect your opinion. Sometimes we've agreed, sometimes we've disagreed, but I've always went to you as somebody who I could bounce ideas off of. So I really didn't want you to go. I did fight kind of a little bit with some of the people because and I know they all value you as well, but first there's just a few things that I get a little choked up and emotional because you just really, when I got on the school board, it was like you and I just kind of clicked, and this was like I said, it was my first committee, and you taught me a lot. And I'm thinking, and I remember I used to kept saying, I didn't say buildings and grounds, I used to say maintenance or something else, and you're like, no, this is buildings and grounds. So I just thank you for really the dedication you've had for our school district, making sure our kids are safe at all times, and that's your number one priority. Also making sure that I believe you have always put the best interest of this district in front of you, even sometimes, because you were retired and came back. So you've even put it ahead of your own, freedom. So I appreciate you and thank you very much.
Thanks,
With that being said, I kind of have an issue with this process. We are literally losing, and it's not that we're losing, but we're losing a person that's in the administrative team. And it wasn't brought to the board at all. Like, even if it's transitional or if it's, this is what we're gonna do, but none of this was brought. You guys have a whole plan already, all set to go. And this is the first time we're hearing, because it's nothing anybody can do. I don't remember hearing this in the buildings and grounds, and I know I missed it once, but did we take it to the board to even say we're gonna combine these departments for now, at least?
So we kind of talked about it all along the way. We talked about the potential of doing the collaborative with the team. We talked about the possibility of promoting some people from within. And then when those two possibilities fell out, we talked about just for the transition, taking it on until we figured out what we were going to do.
I missed one meeting of buildings.
I don't know if they were.
Listen, but
be honest, I don't know if it was all in buildings and grounds. So
I know.
I'm not saying it's because you missed a buildings and grounds meeting. It might have just Nicolay.
What I'm saying is I missed one buildings and ground meeting. So
Right.
some of this may have been covered in that particular meeting. But the last thing that I heard was there was a transition plan. And I heard about there's a transition plan. But literally having that, all those duties go to Lindsay, I never heard. I know I've never heard.
So I think the last we talked about was the Nicolay piece and not doing the partnership with them because it didn't make sense.
Right,
And
and
that
I,
was in a regular board meeting. I don't think that was in, we haven't had buildings and grounds in a little bit.
But
But
we
that-
also haven't had something to bring to the full board, and now we do because this is the final plan. So we
Right.
do need to bring this
but
in
it
front of the
should,
board.
but my point is and it has nothing to do with Jim or your plan, but we're literally taking a whole administrative person,
It's-
what
but
he
it's-
does,
It's not a
and
whole.
completely
though.
getting rid of it right now and moving those duties to other administrative people. Not saying that it's right, wrong, or indifferent, but there will be no building and grounds director on its own. We are adding that to Lindsay's job. Am
But
I correct?
Keeping in mind that Jim's is not a full-time position.
Understand that, but it's still
I'm
it's an
just saying we're
administrative,
not getting
it's
rid of
still an
it.
administrative position. Whether it was part-time, if he was here 2 hours a day, that's still an administrative
And
position.
Tamika, I would be happy, this is like the first time we've brought it to, because we haven't met in a while. I'd be happy to share with you his specific duties, what happens every single month and why we think it can be done this way. I mean, I'm saying I can share.
I'm
that
not
with you.
questioning the plan. I mean, and I have been working with Jim for a very long time, so I kind of know, some of his duties and what he does and how he does his thing. I'm not questioning the plan. I'm questioning getting rid of an administrative person and putting it on Lindsay's plate. And even though she is probably fully capable of that, I think we need to at least think about it or understand that I want to know, is she going to be able to do all this? And I understand the plan and people think they are, but I have seen it in the city part. I've seen it in other places where we have, it's a good idea, but yet stuff falls by the wayside. But here's the other part. And then who gets the blame for it? Or who gets to have to talk about it or have to explain? It's us. So that's all I'm saying. It's just the process, not Jim. Because if Jim thinks this is a great idea, I am for it. It's just moving a administrative position basically to another administrator.
So Tamika, we
I
have,
add something?
if this doesn't work out, we would have posted for a position. We probably wouldn't have hired a new position right now. So that's still a possibility. If we go a month and we reassess and we come back to the board and we say, this is too much, then we just change course and we.
And I understand that, but
Yeah.
it's still the fact that it's not there. I mean,
But-
I understand that this is a fluid, and I don't like putting anything into a box, and saying this is what we're gonna do it. But the process, just fluidly saying temporarily, we're gonna shift this to
Mhm.
Lindsay. Then I know what Lindsay is doing and what her job roles is. And if I have a question on buildings and ground, but I could be concerned about that we have so much, reporting that we have to do. Is she capable of doing all the work? Not that she's, capable of doing her
understand.
job, but is there enough time in the day for her to do this job? And that's what I'm talking about in regards to this stuff. Not that she can't do the job, not that this plan
I
is
know
not
what
great.
you're saying, Tamika.
Just, are we putting too much on one person? Just like when you pulled in and you became the special needs director. Now, didn't know about that to a point, but you explained it to me and you said, this is how it works. And this is my licensing. And this is how I'm going to put it in. So
Mhm.
then I understood it. And when parents called and said, why is she this? Well, this is her licensing and this is how it fits in. And we may have one in the future, but I'm just saying it's gotta be some communication. That's all.
Absolutely. And this is just the beginning of that. So we've spent a lot of time mapping it out to figure out if this could even be a temporary. Do you know what I'm saying? And so we got to the point where we're like, we think this can be a temporary. And I think we're more on the same page than what you're thinking.
Oh, I didn't say we're not. I'm just,
I mean,
it's
as far as-
about the communication, not anything, no plan, no nothing. I'm not questioning any of that. It's just the communication of that and then just rethinking her job or Lindsay. I'm pointing to you like you can see who I'm pointing to.
We
Well,
had two other plans, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So we communicated the whole, we're gonna do it with everybody else, and then that didn't work out. And then we communicated, okay, we've got somebody we think we're gonna promote, and that didn't work out. So now we're at, okay, here's the next thing. So
So-
definitely the
That,
communication.
I think that's the big key point is like, we've kind of had different plans in place that, you know, we thought this was the plan, this was communicated to the team as well, and things change and that's fine. And so when we had the conversation of taking on this responsibility is, okay, let's give it a shot and reevaluate in a couple months and see where we're at. Because it also is a really good experience for me to be able to get a better understanding of our district's buildings and grounds. And Jim has done an amazing job. Like, we've done walkthrough of the building, so I know where things are at. And I know I'm still new, so you're getting to know me, but I will have no hesitation to be able to say, nope, like too much. We need to have a conversation about this. But I also just want to make sure we're not hiring somebody that isn't a good fit to the district and it makes more work or more stress for the team.
Yeah, because I would say that was definitely feedback from the team was fear around an unknown. So it gives a little bit of time to figure that out too.
I
Well, you
also
had
wanna
one
just
other
add-
plan
well,
that you
it-
could have just cloned Jim and this would have been
Right.
all said and done and we wouldn't have had a problem and they could have just worked, but Jim doesn't want. his
Or
team
just
to-
rewind
Jim would need a
time.
lot.
so that
You
he-
know, I'd like to just make two quick observations if I can. And one is that the reason why we're having this meeting is to discuss the plans after the administration has taken some time to try to figure out what the best options are. The other thing that I'm just going to guess, which by the way, I think had some impact with the special ed role, is that when you're trying to replace mid-year a halftime position, it's very hard to find qualified people in the middle of the year who are going to do that. We thought that this easy button was going to be doing some shared services with other places, and so I understand that that was one of the options that was looked into that didn't pan out. The truth of the matter is that might have also been a band-aid solution too, because I think that frankly it's good to have greater local control over that aspect. Otherwise, you really do create multiple administrative layers and don't really have people on the ground. So I think this is a starting point from what I understand. I think that's why it was communicated. And I think that it was worked out and the administration came to us when they were ready with the plan. Would it have been great to, theoretically known 2 months ago exactly what was going to transpire? Sure. And could the board reject it and, ask Ms. Weiss to post the position? Sure. And we're going
We
to talk
still
about that.
I mean,
know,
we'll bring
but-
more information to the next board meeting, and
Yeah.
if it doesn't look good, that is still the board's purview. If you guys say, nope, this doesn't look great, then we know it's just really short term and we're looking for somebody.
But and I just want to say I'm satisfied with the information that you have brought. And granted, maybe you and I have had some conversations, Ms. Weiss, on the side about this as well. But it seems like everyone's on the same page, and I appreciate that. There's not been some consideration of other options as well, and so it seems to me like everyone's on the same page and rather positive on this. That may just be putting a smile on things when we're in a difficult position anyways, but at the end of the day, this is where we are and this is probably how we're going to proceed. But what
To
we
be
have
clear.
today is what we have today though is the presentation of an option and a plan that the administration wants to share with us, which will be confirmed at our next board meeting. And so I
To
think that
be
this is what
clear.
I think that is what the communication is.
To be
Well, and
clear.
if
Go
I can
ahead,
add, if I can add just a couple historical points here too, our district has, and not because of me, but even before I started here 20 years ago, we've had the luxury of having a part-time person be full-time. Going back to shared services way back in the 80s and 90s. And and the luxury was that we never looked at it as a part-time person, like that person was our full-time person or my job. When I was shared with Napledale, I was actually a 60% Glendale. I was a part-time Glendale person. Glendale has always been my home because they held my contract for all those years, which was great. So, so in looking at the landscape of B&G directors and managers out there, it is sometimes difficult to hire a part-time person unless they're retired, number one, and then you've got some stipulations, or they're brand new and they'll do that. So when I came back the last time from retirement, I was actually hired back at a 0.5 or 0.45, I think what it was. So again, the district just got a benefit of having a full-time person, but paying part-time because that was my choice and to the district's advantage. So we've been blessed in that way. So I think, as Lindsay said, and as Allison pointed out, come February 1st, it's hard to hire someone midstream or mid-year. And people make a lot of changes and in the spring and that April, May timeframe, if that's the time to look at, that's when people are out there. If there's going to be changes made for July 1, then and it's a good time. And I feel for the next 5 months we're fine, and beyond that we're fine. But the next 5 months, we're going to be okay, and we've got things in place. There's projects going on. We're replacing stuff. So, but that's all in place right now, and so I feel very good about that. And yeah, is it going to be a sad day when I walk out? You bet it is. I mean, I started in this district with my kids in 1984. That's a long time ago, when my daughter was at Parkway. So that's a long time ago. So it's a good thing. So that's what I got.
Just to be clear, heard everything you guys said. Still administrative decision that you pulled out and moved it. I don't care if anybody else agrees with me. I'm a 1/5 of the board, so I'm telling you my 1/5, opinion on it. The board will go fully, but I just want to say that it's more so I don't have a problem with the plan. Jim helped you with the plan. It just seems, I hate these, and maybe I missed something, and I'm usually don't, especially when it comes to this particular committee. Partially, I believe this is our fault, my fault, in the sense of we knew Jim was leaving early. This was before you got here, Lindsay, before Allison got here. So we knew, and we kept kicking it down the road and kept kicking it down and kept kicking it down. So I take full responsibility that, we're in this position that we don't have somebody here, because we probably should have taken care of this last year, or at least not waited until December to figure out what we were going to do of the previous year. I mean, so I am taking my blame to this too, but in all, I'm okay with the plan. I trust Jim. It's just the administrative part, and also worried about Lindsay's workload. That is the key to that. It's not, not wanting to say you guys don't know what you're doing, but literally, like Lindsay just said, we don't know her yet. She hasn't even gone through her full year yet. I don't know how much she can take or not take before she says screw us and leaves because we put too much on her. Do you understand what I mean? So I just want to be very, very cautious on, especially that most of this administration has not been here more than 2 years. This is their first year or second year, just making sure that we don't call them superwomen or supermen and expect them to move mountains and, leaps and bounds, and we end up they end up burnt out. So those are my concerns. So that's all I wanted to say. That's all I got to say. And lastly, I just tested again, and I am negative still, even though my house is COVID cooties.
Well, Tamika, I have one,
there.
you know, I do have
We're
one
twins.
regret, Tamika. We didn't get that high school built.
Oh, so just for you and Lindsay, Jim and I used to always whisper that I used to get so sick of Nicolay trying to kind of
Yeah.
hold over stuff with us sometimes. And Jim like has in his drawer in the bottom, there's some plans down there for a high school. And I never got to look at them, but every once in a while, when we got to a point where we didn't agree, we would go, where's those plans, Jim? It would be just as big as Whitefish Bay. We could do this. But then it was just kind of our inside joke that we always had. Where's those plans at? But I will take that with me, Jim. I
Okay.
appreciate you so much. You really don't understand how much you really helped me, and I thank you.
And
You're
Tamika,
you're very welcome.
Tamika, I just
Okay.
want to say thank you for caring about those things, about like workload, about those pieces. I was in a space when every administrator started retiring around me, and I remember crying because I felt like everybody was new and there was nobody left so I understand that piece too. And I apologize if there was not enough communication. There's been so much trying to share over the last couple of months that I acknowledge that it probably wasn't enough shared in this area, and I apologize for that.
There's no apology. We'll just do it better next time. You know, there's not a blame here. I'm just saying this is where I feel, and it's not a blame. This is a great plan. You guys, I trust that you are going to do it. I just need to know that you're doing it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not questioning anything you're doing. Just let me know you're doing it. And then if I do have a question, I can ask questions for clarification. That's all.
Yep, totally.
Tamika and
Jim
Andy,
taught me that.
I've trained the ladies too. I have this sign for them.
Tell them I'm
Does
gonna
that have
print-
my name on it?
Okay.
Does that have my name on it?
I can put it on there for you.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
All right. Well, thank you all. Visitor participation 3A. Visitors may speak on a non-agenda item at this time. State law and or board policy may limit school board response. Anyone
Katie.
going once?
It's only Katie on here. Katie, do you have something to say?
Going
Or
twice?
Kevin.
Kevin
Kevin-
counts
oh,
too. Yeah, Kevin counts too. Okay,
Gonna
seeing
miss you,
none.
Jim.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Katie.
Luck.
Item 4A, motion to adjourn. Is there a motion?
I love this. This is Jim's last one. I'm just kind of prolonging it.
Not his last one. He's got a meeting.
No, this is his last building the ground
Yes.
committee meeting.
I'll be there next Wednesday, next 2 weeks, Wednesday. I'll be there
in the comments.
in the Commons
There you go.
with the 7 other people that show up.
Bye, Jim. And I appreciate you. Motion to adjourn.
All right. Seconded. All in favor on the voice vote? Aye. And
Dane.
the ayes have it.
The ayes have it. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Tamika.
Yeah, talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Lindsay. Bye, Allison. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.